Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the new Dockyard. I absolutely love these events, my favorite by far, as Wargaming puts a lot of time and effort into them, the art team here building the ship up, as well as it's a reasonable price. It's new content, fresh content, that almost everyone can get excited for. The only way is if you're strictly free to play. But these generally have been the best value events that Wargaming puts on. A lot of the new content we see these days is creeping up on $150 in its average price when it's introduced. So understandably, people aren't all that excited about these new updates. Finally though, with the Laffey Dockyard here, you can get excited if you're willing to spend 5,000 doubloons. This Dockyard will consist of 20 phases over the next 2 updates. There will be mission chains to actually unlock the ship. And you'll get 18 out of 20 through completing in-game missions. After that, though, you will have to spend doubloons. The 5,000 doubloon cost is only if you pre-buy, so a bit of FOMO there. As always, that's going to be a criticism of mine. If you're unsure, if you have the time over the next 2 months to grind it out, I don't blame you. These things can take a while. It's only 3,000 doubloons per phase, so it's a loss. I'm using air quotes here because it's all just in-game stuff, but it's a loss of 1,000 doubloons to just not have that time pressure on you throughout this entire 2 months to think I have to do this because I already bought into it. That'd be my recommendation if you're not sure you can get it done. If you play every day though, 5,000 doubloons seems pretty good for a tier 10 destroyer, yes. Laffey is at tier 10. Looks a lot like a gearing. It's a little bit different. It's a different class, actually similar to the Yu Yang is what the comparison would be. The gun power though is extreme on this ship, as well as its healing. The heals are absolutely wild here, alongside the fancy new smoke that we find on the Burrows line. So the alternate split off destroyer line that we've just seen for the American tech tree. We also get that fun bursty smoke to play around with. And now we get a heal with this one. It's a very, very fun ship to play with. Although the guns are still just gearing guns. You're going to notice the shell velocity here is a massive problem. Get a little more range over gearing. So gearing at 11.1, we get 12.4. But is it usable range? I don't know. It's hard to lead, man. It is so hard to lead these guns. Find ourselves in a gunfight with a Shimakaze here, and you're also going to notice we have a 3-round burst. So we're at 20 hits right now before the burst, and we get ourselves up to 31. Not a bad burst. It didn't hit everything, but that's a lot of extra damage. We've done over 17,000 damage in that initial engagement to that Shima. We use our bursty smoke to get away, and then unfortunately, I didn't see my teammate coming through, and my rudder's broken, which I didn't rep. And we eat the torpedo. This would be a death sentence if you're playing a gearing, if you're playing a Yu Yang, even the Burrows, even the almighty new Burrows. This would be a death sentence. But look at the heal. This thing has a 30% heal, and you get 3 of them. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's comparable to Lucian heals, in fact. That ship gets 30% heals, but it's a long duration. You have to wait 60 seconds to get that full heal. We get that 30% of our HP back in 20 seconds with an 80-second cooldown on this heal. So standard cooldown, standard duration. Where Lucian has that 60 seconds, you gotta wait so long to get the HP back. And then the cooldown time is 120 seconds, not 80 seconds. So massive buff on the heal here. It's even better than hull heals, which are absolutely ridiculous at high tier these days. That ship gets almost 60k effective HP if you fully build for it. The only problem is you get 2 of them base, so taking Superintendent gets you up to 3, where hull gets 3 base, Lucian also gets 3 base. A small downside considering the absolutely ridiculous amount of healing. It's also got slightly improved repair percentages here, so we have 60% pen repair rather than the standard 50%. It's minor, but that is also what Hull and Lucian have, so not too different from the other heal destroyers. But it is worth mentioning if you do take quite a bit of pen damage, not just fires or things you can heal back 100%, you should still be able to get good value out of these heals. We get ourselves into a bit of trouble, and then we can just pop our smokes. If you've missed the content on the new American destroyer line, the Burrows line, I love these smokes. They are so much fun to use, so flexible, so versatile. You can play so ridiculously aggressive because you always have a get out of jail free card in this smoke screen. Not only that, this ship gets the heals too, so I can play even more aggressive. I think this is going to be one of my favorite destroyers to play in the game. You know, that might also be some recency bias now that I'm thinking about it. As I've just started, I'm very hyped about this ship. But it's still so much fun to be able to play so aggressive and have all these tools to heal back, have the smokes to support that aggressive play and allowing you to go dark whenever you want to. It's got weak gun shell arcs. It also has only 8-kilometer torpedoes. It doesn't have sap from the new line. I think it's reasonably well balanced. All right, the amount of healing is kind of absurd. The ability to go dark all the time is very, very useful. But let's be honest here, gearing gun arcs are not good, okay? They are very, very difficult to use. And I think that's a worthy trade-off for a ship that needs to play close because of these gun arcs to have such absurd amounts of healing. Your base HP also is quite low, I would say. 18,500 is your base HP. We're obviously going to be buffing that with our commander. We're going to take the flag as well, but 23,100 HP is not a lot. That's even a little bit less than gearing gets. The heals make up for it, obviously, but if we get caught out without the heal, we could go down, certainly. This is a ship that needs to play aggressive, though, to even make use of these guns. I'm failing to even hit this Yu-Yang, by the way. Certainly skill issue. We could say skill issue there, but it is hard. I even recently played through the entire original American destroyer line in a video, seeing what they were like these days, and I thought they were pretty solid, but the one complaint I had was the shell velocity, man. It is just so much worse than pretty much everything else. And gearing, especially, did not have much to make up for that, leading me to play it more as a torpedo these days, probably, especially with the Burrows line releasing. Laffey does not improve the shell velocity, but what it does improve is our ability to play at ranges where our shell velocity is fine, which is like 8 or 9 kilometers. Seems terrifying these days at tier 10 to play that close, simply because of the healing we have here. Now, these smokes are also nerfed, by the way, compared to the Burrows line. We do not have the duration, okay? The maximum duration is only 80 seconds, where on Burrows, we're getting upwards of 200 seconds on those smokes. That is a massive difference. Laffey is not going to have that ability to just sit in its smoke for extended durations, like every once in a while I would end up doing in Burrows. So this smoke is mostly going to be relegated to I need to go dark very quick and then drop the smoke and move on. It's not something you're going to sit in your smoke and farm from. 80 seconds is not a lot of time at all. Fortunately, though, they reduced the minimum usage time. That's a buff because it allows you to not use up as much of your smoke if you use it like this to panic and go dark from it. On the Burrows, you have a 15-second minimum usage time, but 10 seconds here. As a trade-off, it feels like the smoke takes longer to recharge to let me use it again. There is a cooldown. You can't just spam it on and off like dolphining we used to see with submarines. There is a cooling off period after dropping your smoke screen. You can't instantly set it back up again. And it's a little bit longer here on Laffey, close to 30 seconds, 25, 30 seconds, something like that. Look at me charging down a submarine, by the way. Usually we're not doing this. Look at the map, by the way. This is like a suicide push usually. If I was a gearing, I would never, ever be doing this. This was also my first game, by the way, so excuse the fat fingering of the smoke twice already in this one battle. I was playing poorly, but still, we're gonna live it, man. This smoke allows me to go dark. The heals allow me to come back from damage. We're like 7 kilometers from the Vermonts here, and my team is back on the G line. That's where my support is. We're getting a lot of spotting damage here, not a lot of actual damage. 8-kilometer torps, bit of a downside here. And now I should also talk about the burst fire. I kind of missed my opportunity with the original clip on this Marceau. But you notice how I used my burst and then I smoked up and he was still spotted and I just couldn't shoot him because my reload was so long. I've realized while playing this ship that the burst is almost always bait. The only time that I think this burst is good is if the enemy ship is about to go dark, like that Shimakaze in the very first clip. They're about to go behind an island, or you are about to go down. Otherwise, the reload after this burst is just absurd. You have a 25-second base reload, which is affected by reload buffs like 6 upgrade slot, like BFT, like Fearless Brawler, things like that. But let's take base values because it's easier with these third-party websites. 25-second reload time for 3 salvos only, with a 1-second interval between shots. 1-second interval. Our base reload is 2.8 seconds. So it's really not even getting us like that fast of a burst, I don't find. And we have a massive penalty for using it. And we don't even have a damage buff while using the burst. The only reason I bring that up is we have the Joshua Humphreys. That's the super ship version of the gearing line. That gets you a 3-round burst at 1.5-second intervals. 35-second reload. Sounds really bad. But you have plus 50% alpha damage while using it. That's a good reason to use it. Here we don't have anything like that. So it's nice to have, I guess, but that's not really worth using in my opinion for most situations. 99% of the time, you should not be using this F key. Another clip of me going after subs, by the way. Usually I just don't do that. You notice how much chip damage I took from the Salem? Just because charging down a sub, you're inevitably going to get spotted out in the open, and there's likely going to be cruisers, battleships there to shoot at you. Usually I'm not doing that. Why am I doing it here? Because we just have an absurd amount of healing. I can apply so much pressure on these flanks simply because I know if I take a bit of damage, I'm not out of the game. I'm not in a situation where I can't take risks in the late game if the game is close, which we all know how much I love close games, where I got to use my brain and think and my decisions actually matter. I want to have enough HP for those situations that I can actually make plays and maybe try and win a really close battle or something like that. If I take too much damage early, trying to go after a sub, getting spotted and taking all that chip damage in a normal DD, well then I don't have that opportunity to play in my favorite part of this video game, which is the late game close battles. With Laffey though, I have the heals, so I feel reasonably comfortable to go after it. We should also talk about concealment, because this ship gets a best concealment of 6 kilometers, which is fine. Gearing gets down to 5.8 though. We have a little better reload than gearing, but that 6 kilometers is just fine. If I go for a full DPM build like I am here, it's 6.7 kilometers. So I'm running Fearless Brawler. I've got everything here for buffing the reload. And that is harder to use, harder to push caps. I like that playstyle a lot of pushing aggressively, so I would probably want to fit concealment in some way. But I still had some excellent games here running Fearless Brawler, the full DPM build. Open water gunboating is quite hard just because, again, that shell velocity is such a problem. But pushing caps like this, getting into those like knife fights, we call them, right? Like little DD fights where such close range action like that is super duper fun. We're going to use our smoke here to go dark from the Lexington. So convenient to not have a full gearing smoke, quote unquote, wasted here. I don't have to waste that full smoke from a gearing because I can just turn the smoke on and off again. It is so convenient. You notice we also shot down a lot of planes. This ship has pretty bad AA. You get hardly any flak. Your DPS is not amazing. But this is the best defensive AA in the entire game. Right as they're about to remove D-Fire from the game in their latest CV rework concept. But for now, this D-Fire... I'm not going to rant about that, okay? I'm sorry to bring it up if that's a sore subject. I'm not going to rant about that today. That's another time when we finally get to test those changes. It's 200% bonus to your continuous damage and 300% bonus to flak. 200% bonus to continuous, though, is extremely unique. Everything else is at 100% at best, or more likely 50% on the defensive AA consumable. So Laffey has a good AA consumable. It's by no means good enough to deter tier 10 carriers, super carriers, but I guess against a tier 8, then if they munch the flak, like the 2 or 3 flak puffs you have, then it'll do something. For the most part, though, this is a ship that is going to suffer a little bit to that plane spotting. It's a destroyer, so perhaps that's not particularly unique, but it is worth mentioning. A ship like this one with only 80 seconds of smoke total for an entire battle, if you're someone who struggles with open water DDs, that could be a problem. You got a lot of healing to make up for it, but it's not a fast DD, right? Like, gearing is not quick at all. This is a ship that goes 36.5 knots. It does not have massively improved acceleration like a Daring either. Its rudder shift is nice at 3.1 seconds, and your turret angles are pretty solid at 29 forward and 29 backwards. You know, we're nimble enough to slow down and turn in here to the battleship salvo, only take one hit. We have enough healing to get through that, it's fine. But if you're not comfortable with close range open water DD play, it's hard. It's gonna be hard, okay? I've had a good time with it, but I've got a lot of practice with gearing as of late, and I enjoy gunboat DDs more so. If you're a Torpo player, this is not going to be a great DD for you. It might be a decent DD to learn gunboat DD, although it's hard to learn a playstyle at tier 10 where everything is just so punishing these days. But let's talk about those torps again. I did mention they're not great. 8 kilometers of range, 17,900 alpha damage, which, you know, to be fair, is the alpha damage of gearing torpedoes. It's just that we also have way worse reload. So we're lacking the range and our reload is so much worse. Gearing has 116 second base reload on 16.5 kilometers of range, where Laffey has 140 second reload and 8 kilometers of range on those same torpedoes. Speed's the same, damage the same. It's just 8 kilometer gearing torps with a longer reload. You're a gunboat. You're a gunboat. Play it like that. There's still decent torps for closer range engagements if you find yourself against a battleship pushing you and for whatever reason you're not gunboating and you're waiting for those torps to land on a broadside that you don't want to spook them with. Sure, that could be an option, but really this ship is meant to be played full guns. I should be using my AP more often, by the way. I'm mostly using HE in this game, but the AP is not bad. You got 0.01 second fuse time, so slightly shorter fuse times. Not the full British DD short fuses, but decent. Enough that you're going to get a lot of full pens into broadsides. It's still not going to be as good into DDs. You get over pens into things like Shimas. But it's still worth using because your alpha damage is reasonably high at 2100 alpha damage. Your DPM is very high on this ship. As I already mentioned, it does have a slightly better reload, 2.8 second base reload versus the 3 second reload on gearing. So you get 231,000 HE DPM, 270,000 AP DPM. Gearing is at 216,000 HE DPM. So a modest increase of like 15k HE DPM. But more importantly, that puts us quite a bit higher up the chart as far as best DPM destroyers at tier 10. We're actually going to be 5th best tier 10 HE DPM DD. That's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's right. There's a bug. Wargaming, if you're watching, there's a bug with the camo. I think it's to do with load distances. You see how it changes depending on if I zoom in and out. Anyways, back to the ship. 5th best. That's not counting SAP DPM. There's some pretty good SAP DPM ships that don't have access to HE, but still, well, we can say we're 5th best HE DPM behind Harugumo, Vampire 2, Smollett, and Marceau. And even though we're outgunned by those ships, Marceau only has an extra 20k HE DPM on us, and we're going to be outspotting him. And we have 3 super heals, and we have a smoke that lets us disengage whenever we want to. His arcs are also not great. So this is a very, very strong destroyer that is going to be very difficult to push. Like if you're a Marceau thinking this is going to be a pushover, like a really easy ship to just go after and outgun, it's not. This ship is going to be close to your DPM, and it's going to have insane amounts of healing and a smoke to get away. Smollett also has a heal. It also gets a radar to negate the smoke, perhaps. But it's got nowhere near the healing that Laffey has. And our DPMs, again, are quite similar. Vampire 2 outspots us now, but also doesn't have any healing at all. Similar HP. And it's going to be pretty easy for a Laffey to win that engagement over the long period. Unless you just full send into like a Vampire 2's Hydro smoke combo. This thing is going to be crazy to deal with. I think the heal allows it to be decent for average players. Maybe even very good still for average players. But learning to lead these guns while playing at closer ranges and not over pushing when you don't have that heal available to you, because there is still a cooldown period, and this ship does need to use its guns to get really good battle impact. It's going to be a tough ship to play. In fact, I played very poorly a lot of the time. Look at us eating another torp in this video. If you're pushing DDs, you're probably eating torps. I didn't do a great job of dodging here. I was trying to get into his position where it'd be hard for the Vermont to potentially hit me. And what I ended up doing was overthinking it, eating the Torp, and the Vermont hit us for a massive amount of damage. And again, we would not have lived if we weren't in a Laffey, by the way. The only way I'm surviving that salvo from the Vermont is that the heal gave me so much HP back so quickly. That's the key there. I guess some other DDs with better base HP probably might have had more HP to begin with and would have also lived. But on that level of HP, to live that still, eating a Torp and a full Vermont salvo, that's pretty crazy. And we still have the smoke to get away. I'm a little worried that he's going to blind fire me at this level of HP. I need to get back to that heal. So I am going to gunboat a little bit here and waste a lot of my smoke perhaps. But I think it's worth it, trying to get some permanent fires, that kind of thing on Vermont. I should also mention your HE shells do not have any buffs over gearing, so you have the same fire chance and the same alpha damage. The real problem is that fires chance, so fires per minute is not looking good here. You got a lot of DPM, but all those ships that we were talking about, Herigamo, Vampire 2, Smallland, Marceau, their fires per minute are almost double yours just because they have way higher fire chance, while also having really fast reloads too. So lots of hits, just higher fire chance. Vampire 2 gets 11 fires per minute, while we only get 6 fires per minute. Well, 6.4, but Vampire 2 gets 11.5. That's a pretty massive difference. When the DPM is close on alpha damage and your fire chance is that much worse, you may notice that farming battleships, it doesn't feel like you have the same DPM, because a lot of that damage on a farming ship does come from those fires. My apologies, guys. Looks like this ship did receive another nerf in between me recording this video and trying to get it out to you guys. But to be perfectly accurate here, 3-second reload, same as gearing DPM, fires per minute, all that. I talked a lot about that extra DPM, but it's mostly down to a 7% nerf in DPM isn't going to make too big a difference. It is a difference. But the key to this ship, of course, is its insane amount of healing. Yes, you won't be out DPMing Marceaus, you weren't before, but it's the heals that keep you in the fight for an absurd amount of time. And with gearing DPM, it's still quite good at tier 10. It's harder to use as the arcs are quite bad. I've already talked about that quite a lot. I apologize, trying to work ahead a little bit with these videos and the weekend coming up here. I've been on YouTube for 5 years, trying to make that video as well. But I do need to include this to make sure this video is perfectly accurate. I just didn't expect them to nerf it again, to be honest with you. The concealment nerf down to 6 kilometers instead of 5.8 already seemed like, okay, we're losing some of the gearing utility there, but we have the heal to make up for that. Our torps are a lot worse, our smokes are in some situations a lot nicer, and in others don't let us farm for quite as long, but really it's that heal that keeps us in some of these engagements for so long, and to have a little bit more DPM, I thought made sense. Now that it's down to gearing level, it's still going to be great. I think it's still going to be incredibly fun. Unfortunately, didn't have a chance to play with it. Even now, it's not been updated. Sometimes the port doesn't update. Notice the conceal hasn't actually updated either, if I was to fully build for it. It's just that we have a situation where Wargaming sometimes nerfs these ships on their release. They don't undergo testing. I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest with you. But a 7% nerf in DPM isn't going to change the absurd amount of healing this ship does have. So it doesn't affect my overall conclusion. Puts a slight damper on things, but not a ton. But this is definitely still an absolutely amazing destroyer. The gun power here is awesome as long as you can lead those guns, and the sheer amount of healing here is going to keep you in the fight for a very, very long time. An interesting, unique playstyle in a dockyard. 6,000 doubloons if you don't buy up front, 5,000 if you do buy the starter pack for it. That's pretty decent if you're willing to grind out this dockyard. I absolutely love the dockyard events, so very, very happy to see it come back. One problem, you've already probably commented about it. No mid-tier premium partway through the dockyard, unfortunately, this time. Apparently, San Diego will be available through event and collection this next update, completely for free. San Diego being a bit like a tier 8 Austin with SAP. It's a little bit worse SAP, but it's a pretty fun ship at tier 8. Unique playstyle yet again, and you will be able to get it for free this next update. Not sure how difficult that collection is going to be. Is it you have to complete the entire collection and you have to complete the entire event at the same time? Or is it, oh, I completed the event, then I get a San Diego, or I completed the collection and I get a San Diego? Not sure about that yet, but there is at least a mid-tier premium that will be available this next update for free if you're grinding through the game. Back to Laffey though, the builds that I was running for it looked like this. All I did was swap to Fearless Brawler from Concealment in the last couple of games. I think I preferred the Concealment build overall. This is wrong import, by the way. I did play with 6.7. It should say that as well on the minimap. For some reason, with these test ships, sometimes when they change stats, they don't update the port. I wish they would. Make things a lot easier here in these videos, but it really was 6.7 with this build. And if I swapped it over to my standard build, which took Concealment instead, then we get 5.8. No, just kidding. We get 6. 6 kilometers is still very, very good to detect. You're outspotted by Shimas, you're even outspotted by Gearings, but it's close enough that if you're both bow on pushing at each other, the lag in this game, you're probably going to spot each other at the same time. That's just kind of how it goes, man. Good reload though, 2.3 seconds even without Fearless Brawler active. This one is much more comfortable to play, I'd say. That lack of Concealment going to 6.7 means we're playing a little bit further back generally. And that also means our shell arcs become an even bigger problem. Equipment-wise, definitely just go full gun build on this one. Don't even bother building for torps here. Not worth it. Definitely go Concealment. Definitely want propulsion mod. 3.1 second rudder, 620 meter turning circle radius. Slightly better on both of those compared to gearing. So you're going to notice it feels a little bit more maneuverable. And then we definitely want prop mod. No ability to swap to engine boost, unfortunately. Would have loved to see that. Maybe that makes it too powerful. But as it stands, 200% defire is nice to have if the carrier comes after you. You may be enough of a deterrent that way. Otherwise, you do have 80 seconds of smoke. This says a minute here, but 80 seconds is what you'll get, and that is what I played with as well. Heals are wild, man. 30% heals is crazy to have on a destroyer like this one. And with that, I think that's pretty much all that I have to say on the first impressions of Laffey here. It's very positive. I think this is going to be a very fun destroyer. We'll see if it gets to be too overpowered. I think one of the things we see with some of the more busted DDs as of late, like Hull, for example, also being an American DD with a heal, a massive amount of healing. The thing that sets that one apart is it's allowed to play further back and just kind of standard farm from 10 to 15 kilometers. Even the Burrows, that whole new line, it has insanely good shell velocity and amazing range that allows it to farm from long distances very easily. And then it's hard to punish that. So it's just kind of a constant nuisance on your flank that's very annoying and very, very difficult to deal with. Where with Laffey, it's not got the shell velocity to support that sort of playstyle. It has to play further up. And either that means it's getting in your face and just winning and beating you, or it's going to go down very quickly in spite of the healing. We'll see how it goes. I'm very excited to see people get their hands on this ship because I've had a blast in it so far, and I cannot wait to play it some more. But let me know what you think about the Laffey and this Dockyard in the comments down below. I am so excited to have another Dockyard in World of Warships. These are my absolute favorite events that they put out, and Laffey's looking like it's going to be a good one. Except for that one problem of no mid-tier premium in the Dockyard. At least there's another way to get a mid-tier premium for free this update too. So that kind of counts, maybe? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.